Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is a review of several media accusations and slanders which have been thrown against Islamic Tarbiyah Academy, ITA in Dewsbury, and its principal, Mufti Zubair, Dudha. I am not formally associated with Islamic Tarbiyah Academy, never studied there, nor do I have any spiritual links either with Mufti Zubair Dudha or his Sufi Tariqah. This is simply research on his website and articles and talks which are freely available on the web. Before I proceed, I would just like to give my opinion, and again, it's clearly labeled as an opinion, so everybody's free to disagree. These attacks on Islam, Islamic or Muslim organizations, and some of the scholars and people are political confrontations. Those who are raising these objections, some of them have no religious affiliation whatsoever. These are politically motivated attacks or people with political affiliations. Political affiliations change. Within our lifetime, we know about the IRA or the Sinn Féin, which was at one point branded a terrorist organization. Today, it's part of the government. When we look at the global political sphere, we can talk about the Taliban, who in 2001, the US President George Bush declared a war against, and as of 2011, they are no longer considered an extremist organization, and the US is no longer at war against them. Political affiliations, situations, scenarios change. Secondly, our country, Britain, has a healthy record and history of academic discourse and disagreement. We can choose to disagree with anyone we want academically, so I don't think that Muslims should pursue conspirational theories. There are a lot of people who want to pursue how did different media organizations came across this material, who fed them, and so on. First of all, you're not going to find out. It's against data protection. If you were to pick up the phone and call one of these organizations and say, we're not going to answer your questions until you tell us what is the source of your information, they're not going to tell you, and secondly, it is of no benefit whatsoever. We should take this as an opportunity for an academic discourse. The political disagreement or academic disagreement rather and discourse is not a problem in this country. So we should take this opportunity to put our point of view forward and be prepared to disagree, or be prepared for other people to disagree with us. There is nothing wrong with that. Thirdly, and most importantly, this should be taken as a dawah opportunity. We as Muslims have a responsibility to take Islam to millions of people of this country and to people worldwide. This should be taken as an opportunity for us to spread the message of Islam. It should not be viewed as an attack. And lastly, and this is my only regret in this scenario, there are people in Britain who have supported the cause of Deoband for many years, even going back decades. They've heard conferences or held conferences throughout this country in various institutes and masajid about Deoband, about the greatness of Deoband, the scholars of Deoband, and raising slogans of Deoband Zindabad. Unfortunately, majority of these people, and unfortunately and regrettably scholars, have completely overlooked what the media is doing to Islamic Tarbiyah Academy and Mufti Zubair, who happens to be one of the sons of Deoband. Okay, they have not come forth. Being associated with Deoband doesn't mean raising slogans and holding conferences here and there. It's about supporting the stance of what the elders of Deoband were all about. And it is my regret that many of these supporters have not come forward in support in this situation. Let's now discuss the issues. The first issue with the media is currently raising is ITA and its connection with terrorism. This has supposedly two underpinnings. One is the personality of Hakim Akhtar rahmatullahi alayh, and the secondly is Al-Akhtar Trust. If you look at ITA's website, which is Islamic Tarbiyah Academy, Dewsbury, you can Google it very easily, and you listen to the talks of Mufti Zubair Dudha, there is no doubt that he has a connection to Hakim Muhammad Akhtar rahimahullah ta'ala. Mufti Zubair is a Sufi. He has a Sufi lineage or a chain going back to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, and Hakim Akhtar happens to be a link in that chain. Hakim Akhtar was also amongst the 500 most influential Muslims on this globe, which means it's not just Mufti Zubair, but possibly hundreds and thousands of Muslims were affected by his words, his speeches, his books, and so on, which are easily available in multiple languages across the world. Hakim Muhammad Akhtar rahimahullah ta'ala, until he passed away in 2013 in his native Pakistan, was never proscribed, his words were never banned, his books were never sanctioned in any way whatsoever, and they are still available today. He visited UK many times. On the 31st of May 2000, he had a stroke where half of his body was affected and his speech was slurred and hard to understand. In that condition, he visited UK and he visited many mosques and Islamic institutions, and ITA happened to be one of them, and his talks are available on ITA's website itself. As far as Al Akhtar Trust is concerned, it is probably some organization in Pakistan. I have done some extensive research on ITA and I have not found any mention of this organization either on ITA or within the talks or pamphlets or publications of this organization or within the speeches of Mufti Saab whatsoever. I have no idea what this organization does. If the media has any problems with that, they should of course contact the authorities in Pakistan and get the facts about this organization from Pakistan. It has nothing to do with Britain or ITA. The next issue is that ITA is an anti-Semitic organization. Apparently, and I have not seen this pamphlet, there was a pamphlet on ITA at some point which mentioned a publication called Protocols of the Elders of Zion. I have deliberately quoted this word Zion. The media doesn't say that, but probably ITA or Mufti Zubair support Palestine. They raise awareness about the Israeli occupation against the Palestinians. They probably support Friends of Al-Aqsa, and they probably support the BDS boycott movement. All of these put together, collectively or individually, are not anti-Semitic. They are not against Judaism or the people following the Jewish faith whatsoever. As it stands today in April 2016, it is perfectly legal, and there are thousands of people in United Kingdom who raise awareness about the Israeli occupation and its atrocities on the Palestinian people, and there is a really healthy BDS movement in this country. None of this is illegal, either individually or collectively. If we look at Israel, Haaretz is an leading English newspaper in Israel. Literally translates that as the land of Israel. There was an opinion piece within this week by Peter Beinart, and it says, no, anti-Zionism isn't anti-Semitism. This is a leading English language newspaper within Israel. There's nothing more to be said on this subject. The third accusation against the ITA is that it's against celebrities. And what it means is they're against the dissemination of colorful pictures, music, movies, TV, and the celebrity culture. And it is the stance of ITA that all of this is detrimental to Muslim youth and families. Implication being is this is somehow against the British culture. I have no idea how dissemination of music, movies, and TV becomes part of British culture, or when did it become part of British culture, or what it actually has to do with British culture whatsoever. The media doesn't say that. They simply throw down this accusation that ITA is against British culture because they think all of these things are detrimental to Muslim society. What is interesting to note is the British government itself is worried about the impact and the culture of celebrities, or the impact of celebrities upon the youth. In 2011, the British government commissioned a study which is called the Bailey Review. It was presented to the Parliament, and the title is Let Children Be Children. Report of an independent review of the commercialization and sexualization of childhood. It reads, nearly 9 of 10 parents surveyed for this review agreed with the statement that these days children are under pressure to grow up too quickly. Parents are worried about increasingly sexual and sexualized culture within the society. ITA does nothing but raises awareness about an issue that this celebrity culture is is bad for the children, for the growing up children specifically, and it sides with the parents who are worried about the impact of this culture on their children. That's all. Islamic Tarbiyah Academy is an educational institute, and it happens to agree with the government's own review, and their position is exactly what the Bailey Review recommends. The next issue is that ITA is against working women. If you remove the media spice and spin on this issue is a healthy discussion within our society. It's about SAHM. The term is SAHM, which is stay-at-home mom, and women who work and send their children to childcare or nurseries and so on. This is a healthy discussion, and there are opinions on either side of them. What is beneficial for the children? Moms who stay at home or moms who go to work? You can cite studies upon studies on both of these positions. What's interesting is in The Guardian, which is a left-wing progressive newspaper, Alice O'Keefe did an opinion, and she says, stay-at-home moms are heroes. The left should stand up for them more. So what ITA has, they have a position, and their opinion favors stay-at-home moms. That's all. It just so happens that their underpinning is Islamic, and they have arrived at this opinion based on the opinions expressed in the Quran and in the sayings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and not through scientific studies and so on. The scientific studies happen to agree with their opinion, but I would like to proceed further and see what Alice has to say on this issue. In the same article, Alice says, and this is interesting, she says, if we look to the feminist movement for support and guidance dealing with this insane situation, we are sorely disappointed. The debate seems to focus entirely on women's status in the public sphere, how much they are earning, how many of them sit in boardrooms. Any mention of children and childcare responsibilities is always and only in reference to improving access to institutionalized childcare. ITA is backing a position that stay-at-home moms are best for the upbringing and growth of children. That is it. This is a position which is backed by many in this society and worldwide. Again, and most importantly, this is not illegal in this country, and there's nothing wrong with holding such a position. Next issue is that ITA supports segregation. ITA again stands for Islamic Tarbiyah Academy. The primary services they provide to the Muslim community in Dewsbury are education and Tarbiyah. In an educational setting, they indeed support segregation, but they are not alone in this country. Professor Helen Fraser, who is the chief executive of Girls' Day School Trust, she also supports segregation in education, and she says, girls thrive in single-sex schools, and at last there's proof. This was published in the Telegraph. If we read this article further, it states, this is Professor Helen Fraser, she talks about girls, and she says, they do better at GCSE and A-level, and they are now 35% more likely to go to university than their male peers. This figure rises to 50% for young people coming from disadvantaged backgrounds. Islamic Tarbiyah Academy happens to be situated in Dewsbury and primarily caters for Muslim families, many of them coming from disadvantaged backgrounds. What is wrong with their support saying that they support segregation within an educational setting? As I've pointed out, there are many institutes, schools, organizations within Britain who not only support segregation but run institutes which are fully segregated. Again, this position is neither illegal nor illogical and exists within the greater British society. The last issue is ITA and its links with extremism. In a recent article on Sky News entitled Exposed, UK School Promoting Extreme Islam, it reads, Deobandis believe in a highly orthodox spiritual version of Islam, and Mr. Dudha also produces leaflets condemning terrorism and advocating violence. This statement, if you analyze it further, you will find that there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. There's nothing wrong with either being spiritual or being orthodox. There are plenty of communities within Britain who are spiritual, orthodox, and indeed both. Secondly, after turning over ITA and also all of its publications and materials and listening to speeches upside down, Sky News could not find anything which condones terrorism or advocates violence. However, they took this paragraph and they moved it to fourth and fifth paragraph down in their article, because this does not make a sensational headline. If they would have said, we researched IT and we did not find anything about terrorism or violence, it would have been a non-news item. But they had to report it, and they moved it to the fifth or fourth or fifth paragraph down. So there's nothing to talk about on this issue whatsoever. Let's move forward. The same article reads, in the section on jihad, he tells Muslims they should be prepared to expend even life to create a world organized according to Allah's just order. Mufti Zubair Dudha is a Sufi and his organization is a Sufi organization. Allah's just order simply means fairness and justice to all, so the rights of everyone are fulfilled in every setting, from family to school to college to university to workplace to the greater British society. Being a Sufi means going against the wishes of one's nafs, ego, desires and passions, and fighting that throughout the life. It simply means struggle or doing jihad against the nafs throughout one's entire life. And Allah's just order simply means that, making sure everyone's rights are fulfilled. This is mentioned in many publications and mentioned in many speeches of Mufti Zubair, that our job is to make sure that we fulfill the rights of everyone. This is what Allah's just order is all about. The third quotation is a classic example of guilty by association. It reads, Dewsbury has a history of disaffected youth becoming radicalized and was home to Britain's youngest suicide bomber and its youngest convicted terrorist and one of 7/7 bombers. This is simply guilty by association. If we go by this narrative, that just because IT exists in Dewsbury, it is therefore guilty, then unfortunately we'll have to condemn the entire population of Germany, because they happen to be in Germany, which was the land where Hitler originated from. So I'm not going to waste your time or my time addressing this third point, but I want you to understand what this is. This allegation is guilty by association. Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.